Okay, let's talk about the Insta30 Go 3S. Now, I purchased this for the purpose of POV videos. And I was so excited when it first came out that I was literally checking the Insta360 website when it was coming out because it said June 13th. But it's June 13th the time in the US. So it actually came out on the 14th here in Australia. So I have some thoughts. I have been using it for a while. I purchased it on the day that it came out, and I purchased it from JB Hi-Fi, which meant that I wasn't going to be able to return it if I ended up not liking it. And here are my thoughts. They introduced an accessory that's called the card reader. And in that card reader, you can insert an SD card and then transfer the files that are in the internal memory of your Insta360 Go 3S. I'm just going to refer to it as Go 3S moving forward. Yeah, so you can transfer the files in the internal memory of the Go 3S using that. However, that here in Australia is $79. Yes. It's a very expensive quick reader, in my opinion. And I find that it's just easier for me to just connect this with the to the computer directly and do the file transfer that way. I have no intentions of buying that card reader unless for some reason Insta360 sees my video and decides to send one to me, but there's no way I'm spending my money on that card reader. I think it's ridiculous that with the size of the Action Pod, they could not add that as part of the Action Pod. Because in my quest to like this, I actually purchased the DJI Action 2. Yes. I went backwards and bought a camera that was launched 2 years ago. And guess what, guys? This camera, when you buy either of the combos, like the module, this one is the dual screen module, the other version is the power module, they both come with a micro SD card slot. So, and just for clarity, the Go 3S comes in 64 and 128 gigs of internal memory. The Action 2 comes with either 32 or now 128 gigs. So you can actually have the same internal memory, maximum internal memory as the Go 3S, but you can expand it to an additional 256 on top of your 128 using a micro SD card. Now, honestly, I would much rather have a fixed screen rather than a tilting one if it meant that I could have a SD card slot on this one, because the size of the Action Pod, I'll compare it to my Action 3. I'll just take it off of its case because the case makes it look a lot bigger than it actually is. But if you look at them side by side, they're almost the same size. Maybe a little bit thinner, I guess, in terms of width. But in terms of height, it's the same. In terms of depth, the Action Pod is actually a little bit thicker than the Action 3. So with the size of the Action Pod, I just can't believe that they couldn't put a micro SD card slot in there so that you can expand the memory. And like I said, I would rather be able to have that than a tilting screen. But I guess one of the selling points of this camera is actually that tilting screen, so that if you were vlogging, you could actually see yourself while you're doing that, because the pod itself, the camera itself, does not have any screens. And I will get to that one next, which is what kind of annoys me with this, is that you will need to put it back in the Action Pod for you to be able to preview or review the video that you've just taken. Whereas with this, a 2-year-old model, it's got that, and then it's got a screen at the back. And I do find myself, and it's a habit of mine, to always check my footage right after I've taken them, so that if I have to retake them, I am still in that location and in that same scenario that I can redo the video. What I don't want is to have already walked away and then put my camera in the action pod and then review it, and it's just a little bit more fiddly than what I'd like it to be. But I do understand that with the design of this, there is really just no way that you could put a screen on this little thing. If anything, you could probably put a little LED screen there, but it would only show you like the settings and not the actual preview or review of the video. In saying that, this makes it a lot more durable and sturdier than something like this that has 2 screens, like a lens in the front and then a screen at the back that could break easily if you were to drop it. So the Action 2, I really wouldn't classify this as an action camera. I would have probably marketed this as a POV camera rather than an action camera, because I don't know, that's just scary to me that such a large part of the camera is breakable. Whereas with this one, and this, the lens, if you break that, you can't replace it yourself. You would have to send it to, you'll have to send it to DJI for them to fix. Now, the good part on this one is that the lens guard is actually removable and replaceable. So if you do drop it and the lens guard breaks, then you can easily replace it. And the good thing is there is a lens guard that would actually let you be a little bit more adventurous with this thing. And I will say that I have dropped this twice. Once from the height of, I would say over 5 feet, because it was above me. So I would say that's probably about 5'7", whatever that height is in meters. Yeah, so I've dropped this, fell on hardwood floor, no scratches. And then as I was walking, and I was wearing a puffer jacket, the magnet didn't work properly, so it fell from chest height. And not a scratch on it, nothing on the lens to show you or to tell you that it has been dropped. So that's a good thing. Yeah, but that's one of my irks with this, is that you don't have an expandable memory. The other irk that I have is that you can't, at the time of recording, you cannot connect an external microphone on this. It does have a USB cable, USB-C slot there, and I did try to connect my DJI microphone on there using the receiver, and it didn't recognize it. The Action 2 recognized the microphone. So Go 3S, I don't know if that is something that you can fix with firmware. But I hope so. Even if it was sort of like connecting via Bluetooth, I would appreciate that. I would actually prefer that rather than sticking the receiver of my DJI Mic 2 on here, because the receiver is actually quite large, almost the size of the Action Pod itself as well. So it's gonna double the size and essentially defeat the purpose of having such a small camera. Yeah, so in the meantime, the alternative or the workaround with recording audio for this would be to actually use the internal memory of the DJI Mic 2 rather than directly recording into the file inside the camera, because there's no way that you can attach an external mic to it. All right. Now, I'm going to talk about accessories next, which is, I like their pendant, their lanyard. And I like the extra thought that was put into this, where you can actually hide the cable and sort of like make it a little less obvious. And also you can put it in your bag and it won't tangle with anything because the actual cables are back there. So it's easier to lug around, as opposed to the Action 2's pendant, which really just hangs in there and can get tangled with stuff in your bag. So I like the thought of that. I like that they have the easy clip. I did kind of wish that instead of being in this sort of like one directional swivel, is if they had it sort of like in a ball head, so that you can swivel this part in any direction. Because when you have it attached to you, you can only put it up or down, or left and right. So if you needed it to be at a certain angle while you are wearing it, then you are limited by that. But that's just me being nitpicky. I mean, this is great to have as an accessory. I think it's great that you don't have to buy an extra. I was actually looking for one for the Action 2, because the one that I have at the moment is one that you can use on the backpack, and it's quite heavy and quite bulky, that if the idea was to be inconspicuous as you're recording, then you've blown that, because everybody can see that on your hat is this giant bulky thing, and that you're trying to record what you're seeing. So that, glad that they have that. Now this one is a little bit confusing to me. I like how it is, but the thing that I am not happy about it is this part here. So this is the adhesive, and it comes with this part here, presumably to keep it closed and clean, right? So the DJI one has something similar. Let me just show you. So the good thing about the Go 3S is that it has it's flexible, so you can put it on curved surfaces. Not very flexible though. And I did find that the adhesive is not great, because this is what I used to put it on the wall, and the reason why my Go 3S fell for the first time, because it didn't stick well to the wall. And now I know you're supposed to take this off, right? And then go ahead and place that. This thing doesn't actually serve its purpose, mainly because, I don't know, maybe I've just got a bad one, but it doesn't really cover it up the way it should. And also there is a hole at the bottom. So if the idea of it is to keep dust away, that's not working in this case. Whereas this one from DJI, it actually snaps on to the base. So that's probably a better way to do it, so you can take it off. I know some people would be complaining, oh, you're probably going to lose it and whatever, but that's your responsibility, really. Right? So, and I suppose that's the reason why they've made this now as attached. But then when you are actually using it, you've got this other thing flapping about. Not happy with that. So I don't know, maybe I'm just difficult to please, but yeah, I think they could have given it much more thought than they did. Yeah, so in terms of accessories, I really do like that. I like that it comes with the magnetic mount. I do notice though that sometimes it can be a little bit more fiddly. It doesn't always connect that well. Now, I'm gonna go into some video comparisons between the Action 2 and the Go 3S. And I'm gonna be honest, I thought at first that I was going to love the Action 2 because the rock steady stabilization on this is fantastic. All right, but the anti-jitter thing on this is actually not that bad. Also note, I've been looking everywhere for what the size of the sensor is on the Go 3S, and there is nothing that I have found except that it is the same as the sensor of the Go 3. And if that's the case, then the sensor size of this is 1/2.3 inches. Whereas the Go 3, the 2-year-old Action 2, the 2-year-old Action 2 has a 1/1.7 sensor. So you will see in the video comparison, especially in low light, that this is actually much brighter than this. Although the stabilization on this with the anti-jitter, in my opinion, was much better than the rock steady of this one. So let's proceed to the clips. Right, so I am outdoors. It's kind of windy. Both of the cameras are, well, the Go 3 is in its action pod, and the DJI 2 has got the dual screen combo, dual screen module on. And as you can probably tell, these are both in 4K 24 frames per second, and both in their standard or normal color profile. From what I can see on the screen, the Go 3S has got a little bit more vibrance, a bit more reddish tint to it, whereas the DJI 2 is a little bit cooler. I'm also taking this opportunity to test the audio. So with the Go 3S, this has got 4 microphones, and so does the DJI 2 when it is connected to the dual screen module. By itself, the camera only has 1 microphone, so you should be able to hear the audio better, but also gauge how much wind it captures. Neither of these have got their wind reduction on. And you could probably also tell that the field of view of the DJI 2 is wider than the 360 Go 3S. I've had to put the Go 3S on a level platform so that it's at least at a similar height to the camera. But with that, even with that, you can see that the top of my head is almost cropped. In conclusion, Action 2, going back, because I want my money back. Because while I love some things about this, like the screen at the back where I can review my videos right away, the micro SD card slot. I do really like that. I don't think you need the dual screen, because honestly, the only reason you're going to want that is to be able to see yourself when you're framing. And with the very wide field of view of this, you're never going to be out of frame anyway. If it was something that like you can use it as a remote, like you could with the Action Pod, then I would have kept this. And even though this one would allow me to use an external microphone, the use that I am thinking of for both is POV, so I probably really wouldn't be talking much in those videos. And if I was, I could always do a voiceover, or once again record in the internal memory of my microphone. So because I do not have the option to return the Go 3S, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to use it until a much better camera comes along. I am waiting for the DJI Action 5, which I'm hoping is coming out in August or September. And hopefully with better specs. Insta360, if you are listening, can you at some point maybe develop a firmware that would allow the Bluetooth of this camera to connect with microphones? That'll be fantastic. I can forgive you for the lack of a micro SD expansion port. Microphone, while the internal microphone in this is actually pretty good, I would still want to be able to have that choice to use an external mic. Thank you. See you in the next one.